My boyfriend expects me to keep up a lie with his family, but it feels wrong. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. We live across the country from his parents, so Christmas is the first time that I'll actually be meeting them. They are hosting us at their house for 2 weeks. I'm super thrilled to meet his family. It'll be his parents and 2 siblings that still live at home. He has met my parents quite a few times because they live in the same area as us. He moved here for school about 10 years ago, and he loved it, found a job, and stayed. Everything is going amazing. We moved in together 2 years ago, and our relationship is just progressing naturally. We aren't really in a rush to try to move quickly or anything, but I will call it a very serious relation at this point. So anyway, yesterday we boarded our 6-hour flight. He seemed a little bit nervous and fidgety, but I know that he doesn't fly very much, so I attributed it to that, and I told him that I was there for him if he needed anything, to comfort him, and to let me know if I could do anything to calm his nerves. He said it was fine, and we were having a pretty good flight. Now, partway through the flight, he grabs my hand and tells me he wants to tell me something. He tells me that his parents think that we are a fairly new relationship. They don't know that we live together. They don't know that he is close with my family. He told them that we met at work when in actuality, we met at school years ago. We had a lot of the same classes and met in school, but stayed friends for a long time. He tells me that they think he lives in an entirely different city. He lied to them about what degree he has, and they think that he has an entirely different job. He told me that a few white lies about making his parents happy so that they would keep sending him money during school snowballed into not knowing how to tell them, and he pretty much has a totally fake life in their eyes now. He told them that I work in the same field as his fake job, even though I don't. He gave them a totally random family backstory on me. What am I reading? This is insane. What's wrong with this guy? He really wants me to keep up appearances with the stories he told them over this holiday because he doesn't want to make a big scene and be embarrassed about having to lay it all out and would just prefer to wait until we get home again to tell them everything. I feel extremely uncomfortable with this, and I was honestly pretty shocked. I have said hello to his mum on speakerphone conversations, popped in for a Skype hellos when they were chatting, and honestly had no idea that he made up a huge story about us and me. I realize now that I've only actually spoken to her in the last year, which is how long his family thinks we have been together. It makes me feel like I can't trust him. He promised me that this is the only thing he has ever lied about. He said he lied about it because he wanted his parents to be happy with his decisions and wanted them to think that he was making the choices they wanted for him. Would it be reasonable to assume that these are the only lies he has told, and he hasn't fabricated anything within our own relationship? He never told me that they didn't know anything about us. He always made it seem like they did. I'm not really sure where to go from here, or how to tell him that I don't want to do this. His parents paid for our tickets. Would the nice thing to do just be to close my mouth and let him sort this out on his own when we get home and just play along? I don't know what to do. We got here yesterday and everyone is fabulous, but so far I've just kept my mouth shut about everything. The first big family dinner is tonight, which I expect is where most of the conversation about us and what we do is going to come up, and I'm not sure how to handle it. In the comments, Peacocky Peacock says, quote, his parents paid for our tickets, would the nice thing to do to be just to close my mouth and let him sort this out on his own? Why would continuing to lie to these people be the best way to repay them for your flight? OP says, I just meant that I don't want to be the reason there's a huge blowout if this is something that I should be letting him keep between them, the people directly affected. I didn't mean that I want to thank them by being a horrible person. Groya Rind says, I don't think that you can ever trust your boyfriend again. He's lying because he's afraid to disappoint his parents, and there's no reason he wouldn't do the same to you. If he gets fired from his job, he might just pretend that he's still going to work every day and then never tell you. If he cheats on you, he will never admit it. If he goes into debt, he'll keep it secret and pretend everything is fine while it continues to get worse. He didn't tell you about the situation with his parents until the last minute when he had no other option, except the option to come clean, which he didn't take. That's the level of truthfulness and integrity that you can expect from him. He will lie to you when it makes him look better or to cover for one of his previous lies, and he'll tell you the truth when he is all out of other options. OP says, ugh, It's really hard to swallow that. I see why you're saying that though. And they reply to OP, I would be more understanding if his parents had impossible standards that he could never live up to, and he had to lie to them just to maintain his peace and sanity. But that's not the impression that I'm getting. It sounds like he's been lying about a lot of things for a long time, and still thinks that he can get out of it by telling more lies. I would tell him to come clean with his parents before dinner, because you won't cover for him. If he does it and actually faces the consequences of his lies for once, maybe he can learn something from this and change his ways. And OP says, yes, that's true. And yes, his parents weren't expecting a surgeon or anything. They think he teaches, but he's an architect. It's still an awesome profession, and in no way lesser than a teacher, so I don't understand it at all. I think I'll have to tell him either he comes clean, or I'm answering honestly at dinner. Someone else replies to OP, yeah, that is weird. I feel like most people think of an architect as being more prestigious than a teacher. And OP says, exactly. Incredible Bulk says, what I don't understand is that the guy is an architect when his parents wanted him to be a teacher. How can he think so poorly of his own parents, who paid for his education, to assume they wouldn't respect his choices? Unless they're crazy strict or abusive, I just don't understand why you would conceal so much. OP says, yeah, it's a fabulous job, and he has wonderful parents. I'm sure they would be incredibly proud. His younger sister is a McDonald's manager, and they treat her promotions as they would if she had just made partner at a law firm. There is no way they would be disappointed. I feel so frustrated at him, and honestly I feel betrayed for his parents. They paid his way. It's so frustrating to feel trapped in this situation. Honestly, what an insane thing to have your partner just drop on you mid-flight that he let his lies snowball to this point. If it is true that the parents are amazing people, that makes it so much worse because I can understand if they're abusive assholes and he was just lying to them so that he could get his education paid for. Hustle is hustle, I get that. But no, these seem like genuinely loving people that he has hoodwinked for no good reason at all, and he wants his partner to continue the lie with him. The red flags are on fire. Hell hath escaped its prison and is coming to the surface. While this itself is not as bad as cheating, how can you trust this guy after this? Like for him to unironically try and get her to string herself along with all of these lies and keep up with it, how can you trust him? If I was OP, I would out him straight away to his parents and be like, he's being insane, we need to do something about this. And I don't know if I can stay with him because if he can lie about this, what else can he lie about? I don't know, guys. Is that an insane Marky take where I'm delusional and I'm just talking out of my ass? Who knows? But I wholeheartedly believe that, and I feel like it'd be insane to disagree. And now, onto the first update. So, I decided to tell him that I won't be perpetuating the lies, but I won't outright say anything because I don't feel like it would be appropriate for me to be the reason that everything blows up. I actually decided not to go to the first family dinner, and I'm unsure if I'm going to stay at this point, but I don't really know what to do. I didn't pay for the ticket, so I feel really horrible about seeming ungrateful, but I got a hotel for 3 nights just to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm still thinking, because everything is just so intertwined and complicated. Our bank accounts, our rental agreement, etc. So apart from the fact that I want to make this relationship work because I love him, it's also not really simple enough for me to just break away and leave. I want to work this out for everyone and figure out how to help him tell his family before we leave. Anyway, I'm so sorry I'm so late for updating, but I will update again when I have more concrete plans. His family is amazing, and I feel wretched about everything. And now onto update 2. Okay, I think we've come to what will hopefully be the start of a resolution. So, I told his mum that I was so incredibly grateful for her generosity so far, even just 1 day into the trip, which is why I actually needed to take some time away and stay at a hotel for a few days, because staying with her didn't feel right until we cleared up some serious personal issues that have just come to light. I talked to my boyfriend, and we decided on a plan. Tomorrow morning, his mum and dad are meeting us in a restaurant in the hotel. I offered to take them to brunch to discuss everything. I told him and his mum separately that I really want to be a part of this family, and for that to happen, we all need to have a big conversation. The plan is, at brunch, my boyfriend is going to lay everything out on the table. I'm going to explain to them that I didn't even realize the lies that have been going on, and I wasn't comfortable staying there and lying to their face, and that I just found out about this the day that we landed. I wanted to make sure that my boyfriend resolved this with them, because from the moment that I found out, I felt horrible, and I wanted to get off on the right foot with them. We both wanted to make sure that my boyfriend came clean while we were here. When I was talking to my boyfriend, there were definitely some tears, and I think he's going to feel so much weight off his chest when we finally talk about this. I really don't think he wanted or intended for this to happen. I don't think he would have brought me here if he wasn't okay with the truth eventually coming out. I will definitely update when the conversation happens. Thank you so much for the advice and support. In the comments, Tefresca asks, is this a cultural thing maybe? I know some ethnicities get so much shit from parents that kids learn to lie just reflexively. Of course you should break up, but since you don't want to snoop on his actual life, he is likely lying about what he's lying about. OP says, I don't think so honestly. They're pretty secular white-bread Irish folk. I honestly couldn't see it being cultural, but maybe, I guess? I'm not sure what Irish people are normally like with their kids. Someone asks maybe the boyfriend is lying about being an architect, and OP says, I know for sure he is an architect. I'm not worried about that part, genuinely. He does a lot of work from our home office. We also hosted the Christmas party for his office the last 2 years, so I know his bosses and co-workers really well. I'm 100% positive they would have corrected me or not mentioned him during conversations and discussions about design projects. He's in a semi-senior role at his work, and I frequently stop by his office after work. We usually meet up in the reception area to drive home. His office also has his name and job title, Project Manager, on his door. Trust me, he couldn't be fabricating the career with me so close and our general relationship with the office. Not trying to argue with you or anything, as I'm sure there is other lies, but his career and our bills are totally kosher. There's no worries there. I'm an industrial designer and am familiar enough with the career and worked long enough in the field that I would catch a lie about his work pretty instantly. My guess is that it's something to do with his parents funding him and assuming that he has an education degree because that's what he told them that he was taking for some reason. Whether he knew right away that that wasn't what he was going to do or changed once he got to school, I honestly have no idea. We hadn't met yet at that time. That's the reason that it's so strange and frustrating for me because he has a fabulous career. And now onto the final update. It feels like so much to have to type out, so I'm going to try to condense it to be as straightforward and simple as possible. Basically, the brunch went really well. I was very impressed by my boyfriend. He was actually really forthcoming and laid pretty much everything out. He apologized to me and to his parents, and he gave me an opportunity to tell them anything I wanted to tell them about my actual family, my life. They were really interested, and it was really refreshing to just start to get to know them on an honest level. He basically came clean about absolutely everything, including some other personal stuff that I didn't even know about that he had told myself and them. He apologized and promised he was going to take steps to earn our trust back, including therapy. It really actually felt like it brought us closer together. His parents were quite hurt and initially upset, but I think it really did a lot for what they thought of me as a partner for their son and future daughter-in-law, which I'm really happy about. They were really supportive in the end and told him that basically, at the end of the day, he is still loved and they will just have to start building that trust up again. I'm going to continue staying at their house now, and they will tell his siblings together. I actually ended up sitting down for a cup of tea at their place with his mum, and she did explain to me that she's going to talk to him privately about the pressure that he might have felt to lie to them, because I guess they realize now that they put more pressure into him than any of the other kids, because he was originally going to follow his dad's footsteps as an English teacher. She told me that she really likes me and hopes that it doesn't affect my view of their family or their son. She thanked me for pushing the honesty, and she can't wait for the opportunity to get closer to us. My boyfriend also seems so much more open to having conversations about coming back and having them come stay with us. It really worked out in the long run for me to not make any hasty decisions because I'm really happy with how this turned out. To me, it just seems like mistakes on both ends that culminated into a really bad choice on his end. Thanks again everyone for the advice. In the comments, Plant Queen says, "Why would he lie about his job when he's an architect? That's a fancy job." I suspect that since his dad was an English teacher, there was pressure for him to follow in his dad's footsteps, but he wanted to be an architect instead and didn't want to disappoint his parents. I can imagine growing up constantly hearing that boyfriend is just like his dad. I kinda get the job thing. It's still an insane solution to the pressure, but being pressured to follow a parent's footsteps is indeed hard. I also get that if his family is religious, he maybe felt that he couldn't tell them that he lives with a partner pre-marriage. But why did he have to lie about OP's whole existence for 3 years of the relationship? That's what's getting me, and makes it seem like he just had a compulsion to lie. He seemed to fabricate way more than he needed to, just for the lies that have some, albeit still unreasonable, justification. The job and the relationship being sure, but why lie about the city they live in, and why lie about OP's occupation, etc., once he told them about her? And why lie to OP, of course? Well, probably because his architect school was in another city and the lies just started piling up. That's part of what gets me. OP is so concerned about the fact that the parents were lied to that she's neglecting that she was lied to also. But I guess it was a happy ending? I don't know. I can see how that part could happen too. He doesn't know whether this relationship will last, so he doesn't tell his parents initially. When he does tell them, he just pretends that it's a new relationship so they won't freak out at him for hiding things. Like other commenters, I think this could be boyfriend likes lying, but it could also be boyfriend's parents are abusive and controlling. I couldn't. It's great that he owned up to his lies to his parents, but I would have genuinely lost trust in him with this, and I would have broken up with him. Who knows what other things he's lied about will randomly pop up and be an issue. He knew what he was doing, waiting until she was stuck in the flight to say something. That is so crappy. One little white lie? Sure, I can get behind that, but multiple lies over literally multiple years? They've been together for 4 years, and she's only just finding this out now. There's just no telling what else he'd be willing to hide. Hell, she even said that she was finding out new stuff about him during that conversation, implying that he was lying to her about other stuff too. I just don't see any coming back from that literal web of lies. I don't get it. I don't get how she forgave him after all of that. Did she just knock herself on the head and forget all the lies that he told her? What? She discovered that he was lying about more things in further conversations? As I said, the red flags are on fire here. She gave us even more burning red flags in this last update. I can't deal with her. I cannot deal with her. Please, I want to shake her through the screen and say, leave him. What are you doing? Once again, this is an it ends with us moment. If your daughter had a husband that was lying to her this much, what would you say to that daughter? Would you say to stay with him? He seems like a chill guy. Or would you beg him to leave her because he's a compulsive liar and he won't stop and you can't trust him? Waiting until you're trapped on an airplane with him for him to just spin a little bit of the web of lies. Oh my god. I'm gonna go Marge Simpson going up and down the plane going, get me off, get me off, get me off, get me off. I don't know how OP managed to stay in this relationship and force themselves to have such a happy ending here, but you know what? I'm not gonna yuck their yum. Good on you, OP. Our next post is by user Far Astronaut, and it's titled, Am I overreacting? My best friend's boyfriend smacked my butt. I'm currently in my room writing this, while everyone else is in the kitchen and living room, and I don't know what to do. My large group of friends, all 24/25 female, always rent out a house for a week this month because 4 of us have birthdays this month. This year, I happen to be the only single one in my friend group. I get along with all of my friends' boyfriends, so even though I'm like a ninth wheel, I haven't really felt left out or weird this whole time. Until today. One of my closest friends, Sarah, 25 female, has an older boyfriend. He's 36. Don't say it. Guys, don't say it. The 11-year age gap and the smack in the butt. Guys, he's nice enough. He's a cool guy. He's normal. He can be trusted. He's a nice enough guy. They've been together since around this time last year, and I've gotten to know him a little bit since, and I've never gotten any bad vibes. Well, this morning, I'm in the living room doing my workout. I'm a very dedicated fitness person, so I work out most days, which is something that me and this guy have in common because he's a personal trainer. He walked into the living room whilst I was in the middle of my stretches and warm-up, says good morning, and we chat, as I'm still working out, about some fitness stuff. The convo is winding down while I simultaneously go into a forward fold, as he walks past and says, "Okay, well, keep up the good work." He smacks my ass and walks back to his room. I immediately stop everything and go into stunned silence. This was hours ago. I don't know what to do. I'm horrified that he would think that this is okay. He's a trainer, so I understand maybe he was trying to be encouraging, but what? I don't think it was meant in a sexual way, but I'm very uncomfortable now. Do I tell her? Do I tell my other friends? I don't want to ruin the trip, but I feel so icky now, like I'm hiding something. In the comments, a downvoted commenter says, "So, like a butt smack like guys do in a team locker room sort of thing? Like the one you see pretty much any given weekend watching football? That kind of smack? Feel free to say something. You have a bubble and cannot be touched, okay, but it does seem a bit of doublespeak to say you don't think this was anything sexual and also be like, oh, so icky. Like, pick a stance." OP says, "I didn't say he was icky. I said I feel icky, like I'm hiding something. I just don't like being touched, in both a non-sexual and sexual way." Another downvoted commenter says, "Say something, loudly, with all the subtext, just like you are here. They deserve to know who you are." Jesus Christ. Oh, least insane commenter. Me when the people in my walls start whispering sweet nothings to me. They deserve to know who you are. OP replies, "Are you really telling me that you see no difference between a man patting his teammate on the butt in the locker room after a game and a man who I only know through my friends, who he is dating, smacking a 24-year-old woman's, butt while I'm working out? I never said that it was sexual. I said that it made me uncomfortable because I don't know him well enough for him to be touching me in such a familiar manner." Another commenter says, "If we're in our mid-20s, we're old enough to directly communicate with the people involved instead of posting on Reddit when the person in question is literally within shouting distance. Talk to him and your best friend together. Say it made you uncomfortable and go from there. It's possible that he meant nothing by it. Coming from a sport and fitness family, butt pats are about as common as a handshake." OP says, "I asked because I don't want to make a big deal out of it if it's not, so I needed some advice." And a final commenter says, "Tell your friend or him that it made you uncomfortable. Intent versus impact. Even if he didn't mean anything by it, it still made you uncomfortable and that's okay. Tell him that it made you uncomfortable and not to do it anymore. It's okay to place boundaries." Back up to the post, there's an edit. "Thanks for the replies so far, guys. I just wanted to add this in case it's relevant. The only thing that has ever made me slightly uncomfortable about him in the past is that he's been pretty persistent about working out with him as a trainer every time I see him, and I always decline because 1, I can't afford it, and 2, I like to work out alone. I always thought that he was just trying to drum up business, which could still be true. Also, he makes jokes about me being bisexual, but that's kind of par for the course in my friend group, since I'm what they love calling their token half-gay. I think I'm just going to be like, hey man, you probably didn't mean anything by it, but if you did, could you not touch my butt in the future? That'd be great. And try not to make a big deal out of it. What do y'all think?" Yeah, I think that's a reasonable compromise, and I don't think you'd be overreacting to bring it up to him or to her or both at the same time. If you don't want someone touching you, and it wasn't really made clear verbally before that, and this is the first time it's come up and it's like, oh shit, I don't like that, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. That's a very mature and normal thing to do, and you wouldn't be overreacting to say, hey, I don't know what your intentions were. Could have been friendly, could have been creepy. I just don't want that to happen again. Let's make that absolutely clear that I was not cool with that, but, I'm not angry at you. Let's just make sure that we keep it respectful and keep our boundaries, healthy. Nothing wrong with that, and I don't think you're overreacting. I think there's just some insane commenters today. And now, onto the update. Thanks to everyone that responded yesterday. I honestly didn't want to text my mom or anything because I didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing, but everyone seemed to be on a consensus that I should have at least mentioned to him that it made me uncomfortable so it didn't happen again. I do just want to say thanks for the posterity. The smack was definitely more than a pat, but less than a slap, if that makes sense. Harder than if you were to say pat someone on the back, but he wasn't leaving a handprint or anything like that. Last night, I went out to smoke a cig and he came out with me, and I tried to just bring it up as casually as I could. I just said, hey man, I know you probably didn't mean anything by it, but it's been bothering me and I just want to clear the air. I didn't particularly like when you patted, I said patted because I didn't want to insinuate anything, my butt yesterday while I was working out. I know you were probably just trying to be encouraging, but it made me a little bit uncomfortable because I have personal space issues. I don't really, but I have to spend another 2 days on this trip with him, and I didn't want to make him feel bad. He apologized profusely and said he didn't think when he was doing it and was so sorry if he made me uncomfortable. I guess this morning or late last night, he ended up telling Sarah, and she also apologized to me this morning and seemed really mad, but I told her not to worry too much about it. Whether or not he was actually being creepy remains to be seen. He did seem pretty genuine in his apology, and I doubt he would voluntarily tell his girlfriend if it was nefarious in nature. That being said, no one should touch your body if you don't want them to, period. The end. I'm glad that it wasn't anything more than a stupid mistake, but it could have been more. I'm glad I said something to clear the air. In the comments, good on you, and good on him for being apologetic and voluntarily telling his girlfriend. Just a bad choice. Everyone handled it like adults. Perfectly appropriate reaction. You established your boundaries, he apologized, girlfriend was made aware, everyone will move on and learn from this, and you haven't had to sacrifice anyone's friendship. Honestly, I think people can take this as a perfect example of how to deal with a situation like this. Well done. He seems to be apologetic, and it sounds like you accept his apology. Definitely an awkward situation, but kudos to you on how this was handled. You'd think in this day and age, it'd be common knowledge for people to not be smacking a relative stranger's butt, especially of the opposite sex, and especially if you're in your 30s. Even if it's innocent, and that's a big if, the consequences of the smack being misconstrued would be pretty bad. Especially if you're a professional personal trainer, he should be even more aware of that type of action and its possible consequences and implications than most. Right? And I feel like some of the comments miss the point that they weren't working out together, and OP wasn't looking for any kind of workout encouragement. She just happened to be doing her own thing when he came by, and beyond that, he's not just a gym guy or a bro on some kind of team sport, he's supposedly a professional trainer who absolutely should know better than to touch anyone without explicit consent, even in legitimate cases, like someone needs a stance adjustment or something. It might have been just a reflex, but it's an overly creepy reflex, and should be corrected so that it only happens intentionally and not reflexively. The world isn't his gym, and frankly, I wouldn't want that kind of encouragement at the gym anyway. Yeah, if you just, think of yourself in that situation, it's really weird. I'm just working out, doing my own yoga and exercises, guy comes in and says, "Oh, looking good there, doing a good workout, good job, buddy," smacks my ass and walks away when I'm, deep into a pose? That's just really weird. It's incredibly weird. And why does it feel like OP is having to, apologize to him for bringing up his, weird antics? I just don't get it. I'm staying on the 11-year age gap thing because there's a 12-year age gap between him and OP. If a guy that's 12 years older than you, works in a professional environment, definitely should know better, does this, that's gonna piss me off. It's gonna be like, what is wrong with you, you creep? At that point, it was unasked for, and it's hard for me to believe that it wasn't an intentional creepy act. It is what it is. Great that it got resolved in the way that it did, but keep tabs on that guy in the future, OP. I don't like his vibes. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.